Yo, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to the show. Another Friday, another episode of Why Are We Bullish? We've got an awesome panel today. Returning guests and a couple brand new faces to the show. Very excited to have them all. We'll do some intros momentarily. Of course, this is live. Anything can happen. So I defer to my friend Bill here.
We'll do it live.
Okay.
We'll do it live. Fuck it. Do it live. I'll write it and we'll do it live. Thing sucks.
If you have not already, please do like, subscribe, share, all those things. They help a ton getting this content in front of more eyeballs. Little like button just below the screen. Give that a smash. Share this on whatever socials you may be on. And of course, subscribe. Help me on my quest to 100,000 subscribers by the end of the year. And with that, I am Ben with the BTC Sessions. This is your daily session.
HODL the Bitcoin.
Before we bring in our guests, let's take a quick look at where we are in the market right now. This is timechain-calendar.com, and simultaneously, I'm bringing up the live chat on the right-hand side. From here on in, anything that you comment will be live for the world to see, for better or worse. But back to timechain-calendar.com, we're sitting at $41,655 per coin. A single US dollar will pick you up 2,400 sats. In terms of fees, next block, 40 sats per byte. The mempool is purging anything south of around 24 sats per byte. And Bitcoin mined 19.6 million of them. That's 93.35% of the entire supply. If you guys do need any additional help, if the free online tutorials aren't cutting it and you need some extra hand-holding, you can book me for one-on-ones at my website, btcsessions.ca. Shout out to sponsors of the show, HodlHodl.com. If you're stacking sats and you're interested in peer-to-peer trading, instant self-custody, and no KYC, you can sign up here with nothing more than an email address, choose your currency, payment method, and an amount, and start viewing offers immediately. Links are down below. Of course, you're going to want to secure your Bitcoin with some of the best hardware on the market. I love CoinKite. My cold card is my go-to. I have all their other goodies, tap signers, sats cards, block clocks, and I pre-ordered a ton of the cold card queue. So if you want to do the same or pick up anything else I mentioned, head to coinkite.com. Use code BTC Sessions for a big discount at checkout. Backups, of course, are important. Shout out to Seedor, sponsor of the show. They have an awesome steel backup solution. It's a disk and capsule design. This allows you to stamp your seed on these disks. If you do need to switch the seed, it's easy to do. You can also add additional information like wallet names or derivation paths or whatever else you need. And this just keeps your seed safe from the elements, things like fire, water, corrosion, all that. And it comes in a full set for 1 or 2 seeds. And you can always order additional disks if you need to swap things out. Last couple shout outs, Nunchuk has you covered for assisted multisig. This basically allows you to set up a multisig wallet on your mobile device with things like tap signer, cold card, and plenty of other hardware options. When you're all set up, you hold 3 keys, they hold 1. It has baked in inheritance planning, so your sats get to your next of kin if anything happens to you. And the whole thing can be done non-KYC. You don't need to give up your private information to set it up and have it work for you. And last shout out of the day, Start9, your sovereign computing solution. These guys have plug and play options for running not only your Bitcoin stack, but your private data. So you can run things like Bitcoin Core, Lightning Node, mempool.space, files, passwords, photos, Nostra relays and clients, as well as some AI stuff as well. And they have everything from entry level all the way up to what I'm running, which is the Start9 Server Pure. If you're looking at the Pure, use the code BTC Sessions with a little plus sign at the end. I think you'll get 18% off, which is pretty sweet. So anyways, with that, I'm going to stop my rambling. I'm going to get my guests in here. I want to say a huge welcome to Eric, to Coach Carbon, and to Krista from Access Tribe. Welcome to all of you. Thank you so much for being here. And I think before we get anything started, let's do a quick round of intros. So if anybody is unfamiliar, they can get acquainted. So I'll toss it over to Eric. Welcome, man. Thank you for joining. Can you give yourself a quick little intro?
Yeah, well, first off, thanks for having me. It's an honor. And yeah, I'm Eric V. Stacks on Twitter, and I'm a cannabis farmer, licensed cannabis farmer in Northern California, turned hardcore Bitcoiner.
I love it. And, and you've been doing little rants, posting them online, and and I've been enjoying them. I think a few people here have maybe been watching, but if you haven't, then make sure you give them a follow because you have some pretty good little sessions yourself there.
Yeah, well, thank you. Appreciate that.
No worries. Mr. Carbon, Coach Carbon, welcome back, man. How you doing?
I'm doing well. Again, pleasure to be on. Thanks for having me. Coach Carbon, live and direct from the UK. I'm Coach Carbon of Bitcoin Ballers, the Carbon Live Pods, and also host of Oxbit Meetup in my local area. So yeah, everything Bitcoin for me.
Awesome. Well, I'm glad to have you back, man. Curious to see how you've been doing, and yeah, again, thanks for your time tonight. And we'll toss it over to Krista. It's good to see you. I think I got to see you in person a few weeks back for the market that we had going here in Calgary, which was awesome. But give yourself a little intro.
Proud Albertan,
right?
Well, fellow Brit, currently live in Alberta. So yes, thank you so much for having me on. My name is Krista, and I am the founder of Access Tribe, which is Bitcoin's community for women.
Awesome. Well, I'm glad to have you as well, and yeah, it's great to have you in the city. I'm trying to remember, when did we first start chatting? Because it was prior to you coming to Calgary?
Now, I walked into the Calgary meetup, and I think you were the first person I saw, and I had no idea that you were based in Alberta, and I was like, oh my God, it's BTC sessions. And then I'm like, is this real? Is this happening? And then I was looking for women to interview on my podcast, and I think it was actually Russ or Jeff suggested, and they said, oh, why don't you talk to Becca? And I'm like, wait a second, is that Bitcoin Becca?
Yes.
And I was just like, wow.
There's some solid Canadian Bitcoiners, I've got to say. Canada punches above its weight, probably because it needs to, because we get our bank accounts shut down so often. But who knows? Who knows?
True.
Awesome. Well, thank you all for being here. I appreciate it. We're going to dive in, and thank you everybody in the chat for being here. Of course, if you can, give that like button a smash and share this out so we get a ton of eyeballs on it. But for anybody unfamiliar, if you're watching, you've not seen the show before, basically this is Why Are We Bullish? Very simple concept. Each one of us is coming with a reason for being bullish. This can take any form. It could be a personal experience. It could be a new app or device that we've tried, a news item, really anything that has us excited in and around Bitcoin. The flow of the show is, number one, somebody's going to drop their reason for being bullish. That's their chance to rant, explain what they're so excited about. Number two, all together, we're going to riff on that reason, comments, questions, whatever rabbit hole we go down. And then finally, number three, we're going to rotate to the next person until we've all had a turn. So reason, riff, rotate, pretty easy. So we're going to dive in. I'm going to get started, and I'll give a little explanation about what I'm excited about. It has to do with the tutorial that I was working on this week. I was a little late. Normally I post it earlier in the week, but editing was a pain this time, but I got it done. So I just dropped a tutorial for something called Mini Bits. And so this is a mobile Bitcoin wallet, but it uses some interesting different technology in and around Bitcoin, which has some benefits and some trade-offs. So I guess first I'll kind of just explain what it's using. It's using a protocol called Cashew. And what Cashew is a way of using something called Chaumian ecash, which is a very private way of being able to transact, that allows for, again, near perfect privacy and zero fees when utilizing that method of transacting. But the trade-off is in and around custody. And so obviously that's a big trade-off, but for a transactional layer, if you mitigate your risk, there are some big benefits to be had. It's still very early in this. It's all very beta. So you don't want to be putting any meaningful amount of money in it, but you can experiment with just a few thousand sats. So the interesting thing is you can basically get a wallet, and the way that you fund the wallet is with a Lightning transaction, because it's all Lightning native. So in the tutorial, I sent in 1,000 sats. And once the 1,000 sats are in there, you basically benefit from the privacy of the crowd. It's like, imagine there were 1,000 people and they're all using what's called an ecash mint. Basically, it's a pool of funds in which you are a part of. You can transact with anybody within that pool for free, instantly, and basically perfectly privately. Nobody knows who's transacting with who. This is, in terms of custody, it's no better than using something like Wallet of Satoshi. So that's the trade-off. However, what's better than Wallet of Satoshi or any custodial wallet is Wallet of Satoshi knows we have this user and this user and this user, and there's some sort of identifying piece of information, whether it be an email address or whatever, linking an account and a balance to a person. With ecash, even the person that is running the mint has no idea who owns what or who's transacting with who. So when you fund the wallet, let's say there's 1,000 people that are part of a mint, there's no indication who that Lightning transaction is actually going to. And same thing, when you go to withdraw from the mint, there's no indication which person in that group of 1,000 people withdrew. And so you get the benefits of that crowd actually give you the privacy. And beyond that, you can actually transact from mint to mint. So you can have a bunch of small mints of, 100 people or 10 people or 1,000 people, whatever it is. And if you send from one mint with, say, 100 people to another mint with 100 people in it, there's no indication which person sent out of one mint and which person received in the other mint. So basically, you have these pools of people that are interconnected by Lightning and are getting amazing privacy out of it. But again, with the trade-off of custody. So if you're a person that uses something like Wallet of Satoshi or Blink or Albi or whatever for small amounts, or like, maybe you have you're comfortable with a few $100 just for ease of transactions, I would say that once this technology gets to the point where it's stable and usable, if you're going to make that trade-off with custody, you may as well get amazing privacy and zero fees out of it. And so I'm interested in and around how this stuff is developing. I'll just really quick show some of the websites people, if they're curious, can check out. So Cashew is the protocol, basically the set of rules of how this stuff works. And from Cashew, you're starting to see different wallets use this protocol. And so the video I did today was on Minibits. This is only on Android right now, but the other one that's on both is Enuts. And it's, again, like a very kind of user-friendly interface. But both these wallets have integration with Nostr. And so you can actually just add your Nostr profile and all of your contacts will sync up, and you can send private ecash transactions to anybody on your Nostr profile very simply back and forth, which is super cool. And in and around this realm, there's starting to be some other cool additions to this, where you might have something like a Cashew mint, or in the same realm, there's something called Fedimints. Same idea, but using Xiaomi and ecash, this very private way of transacting. There's starting to be some, I guess, in-between methods of, right now, if you have a fully self-custodial Lightning wallet, like, say, Phoenix or Breeze or whatever else, it's really hard to have a Lightning address because you have to be online to accept Lightning transactions to that. And so that's why it's easy to do with Wallet of Satoshi or Albi or Strike or whatever, things that just the Lightning node is not yours and it's always online and it's custodial. But you can actually use things like Cashew and Fedimints that are online that can temporarily hold funds for you and host your Lightning address. But then when you come online with your self-custodied Lightning, it will check for any transactions that went to that Lightning address and claim it. And the person running the mint is unable to spend your funds. So basically, like, they become like a go-between where there's no incentive for them to steal from you because they can't. And you can still accept offline transactions with a self-custodial Lightning wallet. So there's a ton of, I know I threw a ton of stuff out there, but like this is me like diving in and playing around with this type of stuff. I think what I'm getting at is I'm excited that there's going to be a plethora of options based on your particular use case. Those that want to compromise zero are fully welcome to stay on chain with hardware or multi-sig or whatever all the time. Of course, the trade-off for that is fees can be expensive, and you have to be very cognizant of how efficient you're being. You're going to have self-custody Lightning options. That's great, but you still do have to deal with fees when it comes to channel management and things like there's things you have to be cognizant about. But then you've got kind of these other transactional options where you say, well, I have a spending wallet and maybe I'll peel some off from my deep cold storage and move to something like this where all of a sudden I'm getting amazing privacy and like zero transaction fees, and it's only for my spending cash. So I think this is maybe where we're headed. I think we'll see improvements with self-custody and lowering fees in and around that and helping with that. But I do think that there will be options for cheap, very private, with some trade-off wallets that people can go to as well. So with that, I'm going to kind of open it up. I'm curious your guys' thoughts in and around, where are you at right now? Like, are you just on chain? Are you just Lightning? Are you okay with a little bit of custodial if it makes your day-to-day transactions okay? And then, like, where is everybody sitting currently? Whoever wants to dive in.
Do you mind if I start?
Yeah.
Go for it.
Yeah. So I have conversations with people who have been in Bitcoin a long time and newbies, and I liken it to having grown up with the internet. So when I got into the space in 2020, Lightning was already around. So everything I've kind of done has been with Lightning. And so when people talk about Bitcoin on chain and Lightning won't work, I'm like, but it does, because I'm using it for most of the stuff that I do with interacting with people. So what you discussed now, I can see that as a next evolutionary step of Lightning. I've heard OB speak on quite a few podcasts, and I'm still trying to fully understand how the mints work in terms of having the pools and having a what's the owner called? A custodian,
the guardians and stuff.
The guardian, yeah. So I'm still trying to get my head around that, but I just see it as a next step, whereas people are still, as an analogy, pre-internet, thinking about how the emails work. It's like, well, we've evolved from that. We've evolved from post to email. Now it's the next, and now it's instant messaging on social media. So that's the next step I need to go down that rabbit hole.
Yeah, I love that you said that pretty much your entire time in Bitcoin you've been exposed to Lightning. I anticipate that in this next epoch, let's say, like we're just before we came online, you said you're just about to celebrate your first full 4-year epoch in Bitcoin, and I anticipate by the next epoch you'll talk to some people that have perhaps never done on-chain transactions or have only ever done on-chain transactions to establish a channel. I think that might be where we're headed, and then when you move on from there, another epoch, it's gonna, I think you're gonna have less and less people that regularly interact with the base layer of Bitcoin and primarily move to other transaction methods other than perhaps moving long-term cold storage life savings into hardware. I think transactionally, I mean, already, you're not going to be buying a $20 t-shirt for a $7 transaction fee. And as the price of Bitcoin goes up and the usage of Bitcoin goes up, it will be a bit of an economic reality that it is more expensive to use Bitcoin. But I mean, obviously, it's expensive to secure a global, decentralized, immutable ledger for the world. That is inherently the energy required. It's an expensive proposition, and so it makes sense. It's expensive to use that level of security for everything. So, like, what are you going to use it for? How are you going to be efficient? Yeah. I don't know what. So I'm curious about Eric. I think you've got you've kind of had lots of different. You've been through the ringer in terms of like epochs, and you've kind of seen some different things. Where are you at in terms of how you're using Bitcoin day to day?
So I was first introduced to Bitcoin in a significant way where I was predisposed and available to integrate it and understand it and wrap my mind around it in the very end of 2017, right when we hit that, I don't know, $17,000 peak at that point. And I was on my first property that I had bought and the first house that I had bought for myself that I had owned for like 12 months. And I had just received a license from the state of California for one of the first licensed cannabis farms, and got hit with like a myriad of political blowback from some of the locals in the community. And so what I thought was like my dream come true ended up to be this nightmare of immense counterparty risk and all sorts of unknown forces that were pushing back against what I thought was like a really good thing, like this epic achievement for me in my life. And so I had a heavy incentive at that time to learn and understand more about like the real estate cycles, the boom and bust, and who sets these monetary policies. What does this stuff all really mean? You know, I'm 34 years old at the time. And so when I heard about Bitcoin, it definitely intuitively made sense to me. And as a commodity producer, I've experienced full force where there's like a large margin. You have a huge incentive for entrepreneurs and capital to move into that sector of the marketplace and meet that demand with supply, driving the value of whatever is in demand down, creating an existential crisis for whatever the producer of whatever that good or service is. And so contending with like the inflationary forces, the political blowback, like the boom bust cycles of real estate, I basically got a full blown tornado of like fiat Keynesianism, like chaos just like blown right in my face. And I'm not, for somebody who's produced cannabis for the last 15 years, I'm actually not a huge risk taker. So I'm pretty conservative and thoughtful about how like I go through and execute with what I do. And as a result of being introduced to Bitcoin and immediately like going down the rabbit hole of like, you know, this is going to change everything or it's going to get shut down was my thought process at that time. So immediately I was predisposed to how important it is to have it as a treasury reserve asset. And it made sense to me that as demand goes up for this monetary instrument that essentially has infinite demand, that the price is going to rip because the supply won't change. And I'm sitting there literally looking at these enormous boom bust cycles within real estate and within the commodity that I'm producing. And so I was heavily incentivized to figure out what exactly it is. What are the forces that I'm contending with? And so I've been through, you know, I went through that cycle from 2017 to the peak down to 3,500 in 2018, all the way on up. Then we had COVID and then blasting up and all the way back down to 15. And I've just been riding and hodling. And the more time that I've spent in it, the more conviction that I have gained, the more I've converted anything that had any economic energy stored in it into Bitcoin. And so in my current life, I just use it as a treasury reserve asset in cold storage on the main chain because I live a simple, quiet routine. I go and I buy my supplies in dollars. I produce a commodity. I sell it into the marketplace, wash, rinse, repeat. Yeah. So, yeah, that's the long and short of it.
I mean, that's, again, I think that's a perfect use case. I tweeted something out like a week ago, and it was something like, provide value to other people, spend less than you earn, save in Bitcoin. You basically outlined exactly that right there.
Totally. It's just so much. If you really want to understand it from first principles, especially pre-Sailor series, like I feel like Sailor series should be a prerequisite to like entering life. Like and everybody should make their 18-year-old kid listen to the Sailor series on 1X like 7 times, pass a test, and then they could go participate in the world. Because like being able to articulate these forces that we're all grappling with as like, I don't know, liberated me of all this discomfort and confusion and frustration. And I feel like I can just see the world through the Bitcoin lens in this clear way where it's like absolved me of all this confusion and angst and frustration. You know, we're pointing fingers at all these people that are actually aren't really causing the problems that are making our lives hard. And so it's very calibrating and liberating. And Yeah, it's just an interesting thing. This decentralized freedom protocol, you know, as you're talking about what seems to me like somebody who's not super tech savvy is like merging a layer 2 custodial protocol with like coin mixing. And so it's this interesting thing where it's like a public utility that provides private property rights that decentralizes these centralized forces, but then we're all centralizing around the protocol. So it's this very interesting, crazy thing that's just so profound. And the game theory is just really exciting. I go back and forth being like, they want total control to like, they can't stop it. And so hearing about some of these custodial solutions is obviously like quite, I don't know, exciting. Yeah.
Yeah, it should be interesting to see kind of where it goes. But again, like I think your use case of like, hey, I'm saving the fruits of my labor in something that can't be debased and can't be censored and is very difficult to take away from me. So yeah, I mean, I think that's an excellent tactic in and of itself. I'm curious to hear Krista as well. You know, what has been your experience like? Has the way that you interact with Bitcoin, has it evolved over time? Has it stayed relatively the same, or is it on the cusp? Where are you at right now? Ah, crap. we had a freeze again.
She's in cold storage.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we'll see. As soon as she gets back, we will find out the answer to that question. Maybe before I go and move on to a different topic. Oh wait, I think I just heard her beeping in. There we go. All right. All right. Did you hear the question or no?
I did. I'm actually in the Amazon jungle on a Starlink.
Oh my God. Amazing.
I know. I was going to say my husband's actually a network engineer, so I'm going to have words with him about my connectivity.
That's okay. That's okay. You can enlighten us with your Bitcoin journey transactionally, though.
Yeah, I mean, I would say, well, I think it's a bit of a journey for everybody, isn't it? Because you kind of start off learning about Bitcoin, and that's a lot, and then you discover that, you know, there's problems with scalability, and then you discover the Lightning Network, and then that's a whole other learning curve. But I'm quite actually bullish on it, because I think that most of these apps, certainly in the time that I've been in Bitcoin, and I'm literally like class of 2021, so like very short time, but they've really evolved and they've got much better. So I did listen to, I think it was Callie did an episode on what Bitcoin did about Cashew a few months ago, and I did listen to that one. And I'm going to be honest, I didn't really understand much of what he was going on about. I was like, it sounds cool, but I'm not sure how this works. But I think that when we kind of really hit that max adoption phase, if you like, people won't even know that they're transacting on this stuff. Like right now, the discussions are very technical and it's all like very deep into monetary theory. And I can kind of see a point very close in the future where, you know, they're not going to, you won't even know. It'll be like, you know, in the internet, you don't have to know how to build a website in order to go and use a website. Yeah. And I think that's probably where we'll get to. KSAT actually made a really interesting point in the comments. I don't know if you caught it, but she was asking about whether having it linked to Nostr would actually break the privacy. And I don't know what the answer is to that question, but I thought that was interesting.
It could, right? Because there is a degree to which, I mean, within the mint, it's still difficult. But if you're sending a Lightning transaction out of the mint linked to your Nostr profile, I guess at that point it would have to be, to a degree, you're trusting the mint that you are not linking that information. Now, I don't know how much information the mint gets about you linking your Nostr profile, because it may be, I'd have to double check on that, because it may just be contained within the app. It allows you to make those connections to your contacts. I don't think that the mint actually gets that information, but you'd have to double check if there's any sort of logging or anything like that. If there's no logging of that type of information, then yeah, it would remain private. But you got to double check on that, and don't have an answer for that right now. It would be dependent on the app, I suppose.
Well, my other question with it as well is like how that links up to Bitcoin, because obviously with Lightning, you've got the channel that sits on the main chain, or above the main chain, if you like. But with Cashew, where does it sit? I mean, are you writing back to the main chain after you've used it, or how does that actually work from a technical standpoint?
So with Cashew, it's I guess
testing your knowledge here.
Yeah. So there's the pause there is that there's two different things right now that are using Xiaomi and ecash, which is what Cashew uses. The other one is Fedimints. And so Obi and Fedimints are doing that as well. Fedimints are basically like you've got a big multi-sig, or you've basically got a quorum of people that have Bitcoin sitting in a multi-sig, and you have basically redeemable tokens for money sitting in that multi-sig quorum, kind of like how Liquid works. And so the protocol Cashew is basically the method in which once Bitcoin hits that multi-sig quorum, it creates the tokens that are representative of the sats they're in, which are also very private. With Cashew, it's the same idea, but on top of Lightning. So you would have kind of like with Wallet of Satoshi, they have like a Lightning node that has all the channels and everything. And you have a claim to the sats secured by Wallet of Satoshi's Lightning node, again, with the custodial or counterparty risk, assumed by doing that. With Cashew, it's the same idea. You have a managed Lightning node, which is effectively the mint, and funds that are going to that particular Lightning node, you have a claim to those funds, which can trigger, if you want to basically claim those tokens out of the mint, what you're actually doing is you're actually triggering a Lightning transaction out of that node to the destination of your choosing. So like if I said, let's say I was using this wallet that I was talking about, Minibits, and in the demo, I said, okay, I've got 1,000 sats in this wallet, and I would like to, as an example, I basically sent myself, some sats two different ways. I sent it as ecash, which I showed how, you can redeem this into a different Cashew-related wallet. Or if you're sending ecash, it can also be redeemed as a Lightning transaction. And in that instance, what's happening is you've got the pool of funds on one Lightning node. I send ecash to somebody, and instead they say, oh, I don't want the ecash, I want the Lightning transaction. And it zaps out of that pool of funds instead of staying in there. So it's kind of up to the recipient and how you're sending it, but it's on top of an actual Lightning node is kind of the stack that's happening there. So you've got the main chain, all of the Lightning channels on the Lightning node, and then you've got ecash built on top of the Lightning channels. So like there's degrees of like settling down back to the main chain.
Just on that, Ben, this may be a very similar question, but we have Wallet of Satoshi, I think, pulling away from the States on the app platform. What's to stop Apple or Google going after people that are using Cashew now? So
the first thing would be making this. I like the approach that Mutiny is taking, in that Mutiny Wallet is can be natively a progressive web app. So you can go on your browser, and from your browser click install, and it'll just install on your phone as like it'll look like a mobile app. It'll look natively mobile, but in reality, it's going through your browser. So you can do that with these types of applications. That would be one way. The other thing is that with Cashew and with Fedimints, there's no one entity. It's a protocol. So anybody can spin up a Cashew mint. Like I can go on, like I've got a Start9 node behind me, and one of the apps I can get on my Start9 node is for Cashew, and I can run, or I guess it would be in LN bits, but besides the point. Basically what I'm saying is I can run a Cashew mint on my node, and anybody can be a part of that mint. So it's very much like you can't stop it because anybody can make it. And there's no like, it's not like Wallet of Satoshi as a giant company being like, ooh, that's scary, we're going to get out. It's like every single person in the entire country could run one if they wanted to. So they could attack the app stores. They could say you're not allowed to download this app. But I think the progressive web app option is one that we'll probably see more of, especially in instances where they start cracking down and saying, oh, you're not allowed to use this type of app or this type of app. And to that note, you said Wallet of Satoshi just pulled out of the US. Absolutely. And I was wondering, because Albi is another popular one that a lot of people use for Nostr, right? It's a custodial, easy to use Lightning wallet. I was like, oh shit, are they going to pull out of the US too? What they ended up doing is like, just this past few weeks, they're like, hey, guess what? You can download us as a progressive web app onto your phone. So basically, like, they're anticipating the idea that the states are going to be like, yeah, no, this is not allowed. Well, tough luck now, I guess. Yeah. So, yeah, and I guess that. But at the same time, like, there is risk there, right? Like, it will only be the people that are okay skirting those types of rules and regulations that will run that type of stuff. I don't think there's much risk to the average person wanting to use it. It's just that if a country doesn't want their constituents to use it, they attack the person providing the service, typically not the person trying to use it. So, yeah. Anyway, so I'm going to try not to take up too much time on my topic here. I feel like we already got in a good rant there, but I'm going to put a bow on it. I'll just say anybody that's curious about it, you can go check out the tutorial that came out today. The two wallets that I think are the most user-friendly to play around with are the ones I just did, Minibits, and the other one called eNuts. The one Minibits today is only on Android, whereas eNuts, you can get it for both, but it's very beta, so like you got to go to the website, and for Apple, it's on Test Flight. It's not like in the main app store, so you have to just download the Test Flight app to be able to get kind of those early app releases. Yeah, so with that, we're going to do a rotation. We're going to get to the next topic here. Everybody in the chat, again, thank you for being here. Hit that like button, give this a share. And Eric, I'm going to toss it to you, man, and I'll cue you up with the same question everybody's going to get. Why are you bullish?
Wow. Well, tsunami, a myriad of reasons come to mind, but I think the one that I'm so fascinated about these days is the inversion in the incentive structure based upon the fact that we have metaphysical, thermodynamically sound property. You have this monetary instrument that tilts the incentive to peace and cooperation. And that is so fascinating to me. You know, I think about like simulation theory, and I like the idea that, you know, with the evolution of technology, at some point we'll be able to make a virtual reality that is indistinguishable from base reality. At least that's the theory. Whether that's in 50 years, 5 years, or 5,000 years, at some point we should hit that technological point. If that's true, then it's improbable that this is base reality. And if that's the case, then we are in a simulation. And I like to think about life in terms of it being like a video game. And if that's the case, then if there is a creator, I'm just like putting all these common themes that permeate through our society and our civilization kind of together and trying to make sense of all these forces and these ideologies and these narratives that have, you know, existed for, I don't know, what we're told is hundreds of thousands of years, right? And so if that's the case, if we're in a simulation and there is some sort of a creator, or this is base reality and there's a creator, or even if there isn't a creator, the reality is that the existence of Bitcoin fundamentally that changes this realm into one that I can say that in some sense just didn't work, and now it works. The game theory was tilted towards violence, and if you're a sociopath who doesn't give a fuck, excuse my language, if you're a sociopath who doesn't care and you're willing to kill and plunder, then you get the goods. It's the path of least resistance to get something. For all of known history, for any living organism, is to simply take it. And so that means you're at a game theoretic disadvantage competing over scarce goods and resources if you're ethical and moral and you don't want to take. And I believe that people are born into this game, this life, or whatever you want to describe it as, fundamentally pure and good. And I think we all have like the desire to trade and treat other people nice, and we have empathy. But something takes place where when you realize, and I don't know, it happens to a small group of our population that are sociopathic, and something breaks in their brain, I think, that makes them be able to deal with plunder to get theirs, and they self-dilute and they justify it. So I think that having the deflationary monetary instrument and having this invisible thing that like brings people into a place where like we're fundamentally incentivized in the most powerful way to like be fair and treat each other fairly. And it's just so fascinating to me. And it makes me like, it makes me from being like somewhat depressed about the world at some point in my life. I hit 30 years old. I'm starting to be able to make sense of what I'm experiencing and kind of feeling this nihilistic, like, oh, this is so fucked. But like also deep down knowing like this deep belief that there's something magical here. And then discovering Bitcoin, it's almost like, was my life all about discovering pre-Bitcoin and after Bitcoin? It's like, I don't know, it's just so fascinating and enthralling and exciting. It's exciting. And to live now, I think, is one of the most exciting times ever to be a part of this world. Even though it's so tumultuous, you know, I was talking with my wife about a few things taking place in the world that are scary things. There's a lot of things that people are talking about that are truly fundamentally flat out frightening. But our ability to defend ourselves against those things has never been as strong or awesome as it is now with Bitcoin. So to defend ourselves against perpetration, violence, coercion, deceit, plunder, you can do that in a way that you've never been able to. And so watching the transformation take place, which I feel like it's happening at hyper speed if you focus on it. Like I love what Jeff Booth says. He says, hey, you know, I don't want to yell at the old system. It's broken. It's just strengthening it. And I'm going to put all my energy into the new system. And so it's interesting as I really integrate that. I'm not pretending like people aren't suffering at mass scale. I feel like once or twice a week almost, I feel like I literally shed tears because I'll see some image or something that's just so fucked that makes me, dude, I feel it. I'm so emotional. And so, yeah, I believe that stuff is, you know, obviously it's clearly happening. But if I focus on what is happening on the other side of that, like, you know, there's a force balancing this out. And it's a force for good. And it's the most powerful, fundamental, largest force for freedom that we've ever had that we're organizing around. And it's the centralized organization around love, freedom, and peace that's like fragmenting these centralized fiat overlords and their whole globalist construct. And I'm extremely bullish because of all of that. Yeah.
I love it, dude. I echo. I echo the chat here. SF Hold says I'm transfixed. I agree. I love the juxtaposition. Again, everything is incentives, right? And totally. I think you're absolutely right. The system that was settled by violence has met its match through Bitcoin.
Checkmate.
Exactly. And I think it's interesting in a time where there is this this incredibly positive force that, you know, like it gives everybody in Bitcoin that I know is very, very optimistic about the future, and everybody that's still in their pre-Bitcoin era is very, very, as you said, nihilistic. I think, you know, you said it like there's before Bitcoin and after Bitcoin. And I think where you know, there's going to be a market, you know, this is the next era of humanity, BB and AB, before Bitcoin and after Bitcoin. And it's interesting watching the final flailings of the old system, right? Watching, you know, we just saw the Sociopath Summit over in Davos, right?
Totally.
Like, it's just, and like some of the clips coming out of there are insane. But if there wasn't a solution, it would be very depressing watching all that. But you get to watch it and you get to smile and just know like the solution is here. So it's great. I'm curious to get comments from Coach Carbon and from Krista. So whoever wants to pop in there, feel free.
So I'm still like laughing my ass off at the Sociopath Summit, but I'm also really enjoying Eric's fan club because I'm fangirling as well. I'm bullish because I get to listen to him live and be on the same stream.
I'm just happy to be a part of it all. Yeah, honestly.
That's awesome. But no, I mean, I agree with Eric. I think we're definitely living in a simulation. I'm get more convinced about that every day, and it feels like it's glitching and it's breaking. But I had a real kind of weird thought process when I started going into my Bitcoin journey, where at some point I started thinking, oh, like if all of life is code, then is like Bitcoin this like antivirus that's being plugged into the matrix to kind of fix it? And I was thinking to myself, I must sound like a crazy person. And then I went on Google and I started searching for articles like, is Satoshi an alien? Thinking, thank God no one's here to see me do this. And I found a whole article about it from Thomas Strolite. So I was like, okay, I'm not crazy. So yeah, I mean, I agree with Eric. I think it probably is a simulation, and whatever that means, and whatever layer we're in, and Bitcoin is some antivirus. So if the master architect is malevolent, then a benevolent white hat hacker, I guess, has come in and put in an antivirus. So I would second that, and I'm definitely very bullish. And I think every discipline I see and every field of study that I see in some different way is basically saying the same thing, that the old kind of broken order is disintegrating, and this kind of new thing is rising phoenix-like and sort of driven by Bitcoin. So I'm very bullish on the next few decades for sure.
Awesome. I love that. Coach, I'm going to toss it your way as well.
Shout out to Eric. Whenever I listen to you, buddy, you just get me fired up. It was back in December last year, and it was a 10-minute, 12-second video, and I tweeted and put it on Instagram and said, "This is the best 10 minutes and 12 seconds you will ever listen to." And you thanked me for it. I was like, no, honestly, it got me fired up. But like Sailor's Huff, yours is existential crisis. Whenever you say that, like
Totally, yeah. Yeah,
But
I remember the repost. That was a powerful one. I'll never forget that. Thank you.
But going back to so I call it the Matrix theory. Yeah, definitely believe in that. And I think the Matrix missed a trick. I think it was Matrix 2, the second one, where I thought they were inside another Matrix. But yeah, you mentioned it there. If we are, and this force is been given to us, we can feel it inside of us. Once you understand Bitcoin, it's the hope. But in the core of my chest and my heart, I feel like we are fighting a cause. It's a purpose. And you mentioned about before and after Bitcoin. My first podcast I appeared on with Daniel Prince, he titled it, "Everything I've done in my life has led to this point." So I knew there was something out there. A bit like Neo in the Matrix, not likening myself to Neo, but knowing there was something not right with the world. And then you discover something or see something, you think, this is it. This is it. And then you discover other people and other people on the same journey, different stages. We think, yeah, we know what each other are going through, which is why I think Bitcoiners come together and have that shared belief and shared outlook, the shared positivity that other people don't have. And when you come out of that system and you're speaking to, I call them free corners, they're like, what are you going on about? And I'm like, open your eyes, you need to see it.
Yeah, it is super powerful. Like when I hear people talk about their first time meeting another Bitcoiner in person, it's a pretty, like, when I think back to my first time, having found Bitcoin and then getting to talk to somebody about it for the first time, like, wow, that's impactful. But like some people wait much longer before going to a meetup or finding another Bitcoiner to chat with. And that can be a pretty heavy weight lifted off your shoulder, because like think of everything we just discussed. Like the whole world is just down in the dumps. Everybody sees no refuge in sight. Everybody thinks that the future is going to be worse than the past. And then you find this thing and you're like, oh, actually this kind of fixes everything, and I'm very optimistic about it. And there's all these people online that I found, and they're all, and having that experience of like one-on-one, oh wow, I'm not crazy, this is a real person talking to me about this now, is eye-opening. And again, like one of the most impactful moments that I had was I was in Costa Rica, and I had reached out and said, if there's any Bitcoiners around, let's grab a drink or something. And there was a guy that had moved his entire family out of Montreal, and left during all the lockdowns and everything, and had been in Bitcoin for quite a long time, but had never spoken to another Bitcoiner in person. And I was the first person he met, and he had just been through the friggin' ringer. He just he basically dissolved his business, gave up everything, his home, just left and moved his whole family down. And to have that release of I'm not crazy. He was tearing up as we met, because he was like, oh my God, just to be able to talk to somebody about this that isn't online. It was this huge moment for him. So I think there's definitely something to that. There's a reason why Bitcoiners get into a group and we're all just so energized, is because it's you don't get that out of other people, because they're still believing that the worst is yet to come. And there's a lot of people out there that in this realm that firmly believe that the best is yet to come. And that's what I think. So anyways, with that, this was a great topic. I loved, I could have sat back. Eric, take the show. I'm just gonna hang out here. But yeah, I don't know. Everybody in the chat, give some love and make sure you give a follow. But with that, of course, we're going to do another rotation here. I want to toss it down to Coach Carbon, and I'm going to queue you up as well. And same question: why are you bullish, man?
Okay, I'm gonna start somewhere, go off on a tangent, and hopefully come back to the beginning. So I'm bullish on good actor collaborations. And I say good actor, but just because collaborations aren't always positive. So just very quickly, I'm working on a project right now where I'm in need of maybe a whale or a high net worth individual. Someone who I'm working closely with and other people around me. We've had conversations with what I want to promote, like Bitcoin only, but also that promotes education for young people. And so I mentioned Eric earlier. Eric, I saw his tweet December. I posted it on all my channels, and he was very grateful for that. So a friend of mine said, "Oh, how do we get to the level of someone like Floyd Mayweather when he did something with Ethereum Max?" He said, "Bitcoiners need to get on that level." I was like, "Yeah, but Bitcoin hasn't got a marketing team." You look at people like Mayweather, Cristiano Ronaldo, Kim Kardashian, Tom Brady. Who was the other? Matt Damon. They had ill-advised. They collabed with people, with entities, but I don't think they were well advised, and now probably could potentially feel the repercussions of that. Whereas Bitcoiners, on a low level, coming on, myself sharing Eric's story, people sharing my stuff, Ben, you having this platform where we can come on and discuss. It's Bitcoiners coming together, and I call us. There are obviously good and bad actors in the space, but I think Bitcoiners tend to be good actors. We have incentives. Krista, Krista came on my podcast, and I made the mortal sin of not pressing record after a few malfunctions. So we have to get together again. But what I'm trying to say,
we had a lovely chat, by the way.
We learned a lot about each other, but no one else will ever hear it. So we'll have to do another rip. But what I'm trying to say is that Bitcoiners, relatively with no cost apart from time, would go out of their way to support each other. At the moment, I'm linking up with my Prima Bitcoin, delivering Bitcoin education for their diploma, which is free open source. My Bitcoin bottle, can you see that there? Yeah, so the Bitcoin bottle, they've helped me with my tournaments with the ballers, giving the bottles where its prizes, linking up with Panties for Bitcoin. There's so many entities out there that can help each other and support. And I've coined the tagline, if one wins, we all win. So where I see myself going with my projects, I want to bring everyone along. And it may or may not fit, but let's have a conversation. Let's see what we can do with Krista's Access Tribe. I've spoken to my mom and my wife about it, because the stuff I'm doing, I haven't got a clue what I'm doing. Like, yeah, but this lady I've spoken to has a tribe for women talking about Bitcoin. She's educated them. So I'm hoping to push them there your way, Krista, because they're not listening to me. But yeah, so good actor collaborations even on a low level to a high level. Again, people I've reached out to. So Jimmy Song came on my podcast, and it was just
nice.
It was just a comment I made. So when he wrote his book, he said, I'm doing the rounds on a podcast. Would you come on mine? Who am I? Nobody. And he came on my podcast, and yeah, it was incredible. And when I tell people, they're like, how did you do that? I said, I just asked the question. And Bitcoiners I've found in 4 years, coming up to 4 years in the space, more often than not, you ask a question, help from somebody, and they're very, very forward in helping you. Looking for nothing in return.
Yeah. Yeah. There's so many, you mentioned a couple great ones. Honestly, the panties for Bitcoin people are like the most lovely people I've ever met. They're amazing. And I see them obviously every time I go to an event. They're always there. And they're just the kindest, sweetest people. It's funny because you hear panties for Bitcoin and you're like, that's weird. And then
well, they do boxes as well.
Yeah. Oh, I know. I have a couple now. They're kind of the things I own. But like, it's funny because you hear about them, you're like, oh, that's odd. But then because they are actually legit Bitcoiners, it comes through in what they make and what they do. And so they're like, oh, it sounds hilarious, but like they make low time preference underwear. Like it's comfortable as hell and it lasts forever. And yeah, so like there's so many.
I agree, actually. I have a pair. They're amazing. They're like the best underwear I've ever had. I'm not just saying that to give Sylvia a shout out, but they so are. Oh yeah,
Miss Sessions, she loves hers as well. So.
Mrs. Carbon has some. I have the boxes. Yeah, Eric, you need to get yours.
Yeah, I was just going to say that. I'm left out. I'm definitely able to go home and place an order.
Maybe they'll do like a special weed print for you.
Yeah, I could use that. The high hash rate guys are making some Bitcoin cannabis swag.
That's awesome.
Slippers and whatnot. Yeah.
I love it. Yeah, I mean, there's amazing people. And again, like I love seeing, there's no shortage of people butting heads in Bitcoin as well. Like we're an abrasive bunch from time to time. We can be, but it is super refreshing every time you see collaboration. And it is, it's obviously good to don't trust, verify, and to like hold people to account if there's missteps and everything like that. I think that's part of the ethos is trying to be honest and trying to hold people to a higher standard. And I think, we're finding that balance as time goes on. But those collaborations and those actions of lifting people up when they're doing a great job is kind of the stuff that I love to see the most. And there's been a lot of it. I want to toss it over to Krista to see if she wants to comment as well, since you've been on Coach's show or you kind of whatever it may be. But I'm curious your comments here.
It makes me laugh because it reminds me of that post that American HodlHodl did where he's like, ever have a conversation? You should have recorded it. You missed an opportunity to do a podcast.
That's the podcast, yeah.
Yeah, but it was a good conversation. No, I mean, I would totally second that. I mean, I've been in like class of, I think it's like early August 2021. And, my experience of just the Bitcoin ecosystem has been amazing and just really high integrity people who just really are kind of mission driven and care about truth and care about justice and have huge amounts of compassion, care about making the world a better place. So yeah, I mean, I was just really blown away to find this community and discover that it was global. And it is weird, there's a weird thing that connects Bitcoiners where you meet a Bitcoiner almost anywhere in the world, and because there's kind of like a value structure that we all share. And I've got friends in Bitcoin who are just from completely polar opposite walks of life, different belief systems, different politics, and yet we all kind of share similar values. And you can pretty much know that if somebody's a Bitcoiner, they have a certain like set of values that you probably ascribe to as well. So yeah, I just feel really blessed to have discovered this technology and discovered the community that goes with it. It's awesome. Like, long may it continue.
Yeah, 100%. Erica, do you want to chime in here?
Yeah, I think that you said it, Krista. It's aligned values. And I think in a slightly deeper way, Nikola Tesla says you want to understand the universe and you think in terms of vibration, frequency and energy. And I think because we're aligning ourselves or organizing ourselves around this list of who owns what that has no distortion and there's no disputing it. It's this pure, honest, open, trusted ledger, and it represents life force in it. And so because you have all this power and life force stored in this ledger that we all agree to, I feel like in some interesting metaphysical way, we're all like tuned to the same vibrational frequency in this very deep and fundamental level. And I think that that's the feeling that we get, because it's like vibes. You feel somebody who's got bad vibes, you're like, this person's got bad vibes. I don't have any interest in dealing with this person or talking to this person. And I think it's where attention goes, energy flows. If people are thinking about things that you fundamentally don't agree with, or that are not in alignment with your fundamental perspective and values, you're marching to the tune of a different drum, if you will. And so I think that in a more effective way than religion for all of known history, because every religious story has subtle little differences within it. You know, the elders tell it, it's like a game of telephone as the story evolves, or different cultures have like a similar ideology, but they explain it differently. It's not this clear and concise, indisputable truth. It's all slightly different flavors of trying to explain the same thing. But because you have this pure list with no distortion of who owns what, and the values around that are in this like high level of alignment. And I think that's why, just from a fundamental, you just meet somebody who understands Bitcoin deeply, and like 80% of what you could think about the world, you two agree on already fundamentally. And it's this very fascinating thing that I think it's almost like, I'll just say it, but it's like we're like ascending to like a new level of consciousness as a result of all having the agreement on this fundamental, very important like protocol of who owns what. And it's putting us all in the same vibrational state, and we're all looking at something that's indisputable. It's this, here's the list, this is what it is. And so it's like, yeah, it's very clear signal. There's no distortion. We're organizing around this indisputable truth. And I think that that's a monumentally big deal.
Yeah, I think so too.
So it's a cult. Are you saying it's a cult, Eric?
Yeah, it is. It has this very religious element to it, you know. And going back to simulation, like if this is a simulation, or if it's not, whatever. If there is a creator, I do wonder: did like the creator send a messiah? Was it him? Was it an alien? Who is Satoshi? Somebody fundamentally changed the way this world works, like in the most fundamental way. It's
the best analogy I've heard. Sorry, just on that is somebody saying, "What would Christ look like in a digital age?"
Yeah, that's fascinating thought for sure. Yeah,
love it. Awesome. Do we want to add, like, does anybody have any final thoughts in and around this line of like, is there a crowning collaboration? Is there something that you've really liked or seen out there that people are building or working together on that has caught your eye recently? I think this is kind of like a good way to kind of wrap the topic is maybe we could do a round of like shout outs of people that you think are building positive things that will impact Bitcoiners and others around the world. So, I mean, do you guys have anything that's top of mind that you're especially appreciative of that somebody else is working on?
I was going to ask, Ben, can I be... Go on, Eric. You go.
You want to go last? You want to go first?
No.
Cool. I would say the first thing that comes to mind is Sailor, who just brings this like real clear crystal first principles, very mathematically sound, scientific sound, signal and credibility to dude. When Sailor hit the scene, my mind exploded, dude. Listening to the Sailor series was like so transformative. It's like listening to this man in this very calm, goat-esque way just break down, like articulate what it is, like the forces that we're experiencing in this world. And I think that, you know, what he's done is just absolutely monumental and bring credibility and bring clarity and an explanation and just the contribution too. This guy just goes on and on and on. He'll go on anybody's podcast and it's just non-stop. Like what he's doing, I think we're going to celebrate him for thousands of years. I really do. I think he's going to endow a university that can be programmatically funded for forever to give infinite people PhD, level education. Sailor's a monumentally big deal. I mean, I could go on the list. There's like 100 Bitcoiners I could rattle off why they're all so amazing, but he's the one who I would say takes the cake, you know, for me.
Awesome.
Yeah. Definitely, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so I was gonna ask, it's a shameless shield, but it goes back to what Eric discusses. So how do we get the world to adopt Bitcoin? Or how do we show the world what Bitcoin is about? Because Bitcoiners get a bad rep in the mainstream media. So I owe where I am right now to the community. You mentioned Sailor and Breelove. I watched the 10-part series and my mind was blown away. And I knew from there, the Robert Breelove's Masters and Slaves of Money, then the 10-part Sailor series. I did send to my friends and family. Maybe it was a bit too much because they're never going to watch 13 hours straight. They have to be in the right frame of mind. But so I mentioned the project that I have coming up, and I'm grateful for the Bitcoin community because, again, I wouldn't be here without them. So we have an opportunity as Bitcoin Ballers to play in the world's biggest 7v7 tournament. So my plan is to get to the tournament in North Carolina in June with the Bitcoin Ballers shirt, the Bitcoin logo, and hopefully a big corporation, Bitcoin-only company on the front, and say, this is what Bitcoiners can do. So my pinned tweet says, Bitcoin Ballers will win TST 24. I put that tweet on the final of the 23 competition because I thought to myself, I'm going to make it happen. So we've got one foot on the pitch. We just need to secure the sponsor to get there. But on my pinned tweet, it says, if enough people believe in it, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. Satoshi's quote. And again, me having the Ballers, that came from a conversation with John Vallis with Daniel Prince. Then me having been able to put teams in competitions, that came from Corn Corner sponsoring me. Bottle Pay, when they were around, they helped out a lot. And I mentioned the Bitcoin Bottle company, Play Shamarie of help. There's so many people that have supported my project, again, for no real gain for themselves, a little bit of exposure, but I'm not offering massive exposure. Whereas now I can offer lots of people global exposure. Over 1 million views they're expecting for the tournament. It's like, I want everyone to come on board. If one wins, we all win. So shameless still, but I want to give everyone the opportunity to say we can help give a positive light on Bitcoin through football, the universal language and universal money. Universal language, football and sport, and universal money. What better combination to come together? And so everyone come on board.
Nice.
And let's do this. Let's orange fill the world.
Yeah, awesome. Krista, I'll toss it to you. Do you have any people that stand out or groups or entities that stand out in your mind?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm going to give you a shout out because you're relentless, and I have just massive admiration for the fact that you get up every day and you do this and you just keep going with such a positive attitude. And you know, I've watched you speak at, Thank God for Bitcoin in Miami, various different events, obviously in Calgary and so on, and just the sheer relentlessness and tenacity that you have to keep doing this is incredible. And then obviously, like famously, as we all know, what you did for the truckers, so thank you. I think you brought a lot of people hope in that act, and that was something really quite brave to do. So yeah, I think and by the way, like everybody who studies Bitcoin watches your sessions, so the educational aspect.
Yeah.
Well, thanks. That's very kind of you. I again, in or on the trucker thing, obviously, like I have a lot of respect for Nobody Caribou, who is on the ground, like in the thick of it, and was instrumental in making things a reality. What an awesome dude, and just like an all around, like one of the nicest people I've ever met in my life as well. But yeah, no, I that's very kind of you. And what I'll say is the people around me are the ones that continue to give me energy to continue doing other things. So like I think the group that we had here in December for the first market that we put on was incredible. Like I want to say that Calgary, there's obviously a bunch of Bitcoiners in Calgary. It's a large city, but hadn't, like, you know, there's a meetup that happens regularly and it's awesome. It's a lot of fun. It's Bitcoin only and it's like very focused and educational. But we hadn't attempted anything like this before, creating like a local circular economy. And so, you know, putting out the call to do it, I was like, you know, maybe we'll have a small thing and then we'll build it from there and just kind of go. And holy crap, the response and like the people that came together and made it happen was amazing to see. You know, we had like 35. This was a 3 weeks notice, basically. We had 35 merchants. We had a whole bunch of people down there. Everyone was accepting Bitcoin. Funny enough, the day that we did it, it was the day that the fee spiked to like 600 sats per byte or something like that. And also we barely noticed because most people were just ready with Lightning. Like we kind of prepped everybody. Okay, get your Lightning wallets. Make sure that everybody's able to accept Lightning when we do this. And very few hitches during the event. And just the willingness of people to like partake and build and offer help. And like I had so many people volunteer. And so like when I think of like Bitcoiners collaborating, I think of the local community. And this isn't exclusive to where I am. This is everywhere. This is, if you can find the Bitcoiners where you are, it will be the same. And so I think this is a big thing people need to realize, like, oh, I wish we had this. I wish we had a meetup. I wish we had a local market. I wish we had if it's not there, do it. You're the one. You're the one that's going to do it. And so I think I think that's the best way to attack it is find the people around you, and you can build something positive just by reaching out. As soon as I brought up the idea, everybody's like, oh, that'd be cool. I was hoping we'd have something like that. Well, here we go. So we're going to do it again, by the way. I booked the space for March 23rd. So, you know, Saturday Sat Market round 2 in Calgary coming up in just a few months here. So a couple of months. So anyways, yeah.
Field of Dreams.
Sorry?
Field of Dreams. Build it and they will come.
Yes, exactly. If you build it, they will come. Absolutely. Bitcoiners 100% will show up to that stuff. So build your local communities. Well, I'll just say that. But with that thought there, put a bow on this topic. And Krista, I want to toss it to you for our final round here. I'll cue you up with the same question. But before I do, everybody in the chat, again, thank you guys for being here. Make sure you smash that like button, give this a share. And Krista, why are you bullish?
I'm very bullish, and like actually your timing having me on was perfect because this week has been super bullish, especially today. So just building on what Coach Carbon was saying about the importance of community. So when I came into the Bitcoin space, I didn't see a lot of women in the space, and I kind of made it my mission to bring more women in. So I had a company that I was building, which was supposed to be a career app, and it turned into a Bitcoin community for women. And it's actually been amazing because I've met a ton of really cool women just through my podcast. I mostly interview women in the industry. And so that's been incredible. And I came to the realization there were a lot more of us than I thought that there were. So I think Google statistics, this is a Google search statistic from 2021, but it's something like 14% of Bitcoiners are women based on like search criteria and gender, which is tiny. But the ones that are in this space kick ass. And so our community has like a bunch of incredible Bitcoiners in it, and many of them are global. So some of them are running their own organizations, and I wanted to give them a shout out because we've got Rachel Geyer, who runs Les Femmes Orange in Germany, which is at Les Femmes Orange for people who don't speak French or Orange. And Tally Lindberg, so she has the Orange Hatter Pod, which is exactly the same handle, where she interviews women in the Bitcoin space as well. So she's based down in Kentucky. And I recently had the pleasure of talking to Lorraine Marcel on my podcast. So she is the founder of Bitcoin Dada, which is at BTC_Dada, which is based in Nairobi. And out of that, this kind of happened, I think it was like just earlier this week, we all got chatting and we were like, you know, it'd be really nice to be able to cross share ideas and promote each other and support each other and like share best practices of things we've discovered running our respective communities in different regions. And so we're just now shaping up this thing, which is going to be some kind of a global women's Bitcoin council where we're going to meet maybe once a quarter, share what's going on, like help each other with our various different projects and support each other. So that's been super exciting, and we've got this kind of global network of women's organizations now that we're building that is basically going to take over the world.
Love it.
And then this morning, I had a call from Car at PlebLab, which is at PlebLab on Twitter, just for people that don't know. Shout out, they're running a top builder program, and Access Tribe has just been accepted onto that. So we're going to be making the platform, the community platform, into a Nostr client. So I'm really excited to participate in that. It's going to be going on for the next few weeks, I think up until the 14th of March. And I've had some amazing help already from people in Operation Bitcoin who put me in touch with a bunch of devs as well to help out with like advice on how to do the build out and everything else. And so, yeah, like I think I'm really just reiterating what Coach Carbon said. Like I've just had an incredible experience with all the communities, and we're just super pumped to be working with each other and doing all this stuff because we're all kind of trying to drive adoption in our own ways in our different areas. And yeah, that's why I'm bullish. It's happening.
That's great. I've loved watching your you know, again, I guess your tribe grow. You've been, you know, I remember when we met at the meetup for the first time. You told me what you were doing, and then I started seeing little episodes trickle in, and it's grown, and like it's become you know, very much its own thing, and it's I don't know, it kind of seems like it's starting to have a mind of its own. Like it's you're again, you're continuing to grow it, and I like the, you know, I think some people complain when they hear like targeting specific demographics, but I don't see a problem with that. It's almost like, again, in a free market, different types of content and different types of communities are going to appeal to different people. And so like even within Bitcoin, you have people that are super excited about privacy. You have people that are super excited about like what's happening on chain. You have people that are like absolute lightning buffs. You have people that are interested in all different aspects. You're going to have, you know, people from different walks of life. You've got, you know, people that are very conservative Bitcoiners. You've got religious Bitcoiners. You've got progressive Bitcoiners. You've kind of got people, you've got very libertarian Bitcoiners. You've got people from all different walks of life, but that have all kind of found Bitcoin. So I see really no issue in being part of a certain demographic or interest group or whatever it may be, and then saying, hey, let's kind of get together and chat about Bitcoin. We've got more than a single thing in common. And so yeah,
I think it's worth actually responding to that as well, because I'll be honest, one of my biggest frustration was, and this is just an observation that I have, is that the Bitcoin community is extremely welcoming. And what became very apparent to me was that it wasn't the guys keeping the women out, it was actually the women keeping themselves out. And that was one of the things that I found most frustrating and most disappointing. And I think I'm not atypical, and I couldn't understand why they weren't as excited as I was about this whole thing. And I realized, and I had a lot of feedback from women, that they just wanted a space where they could just be together and chat about things without screaming matches. And I think women often dialogue quite differently to how men do. And I don't mind the shit show that is Twitter. I actually really enjoy it. Like I love all like the debates, but as I say, I don't think I'm atypical. And I realized that actually, if I wanted to orange pill my friends, I needed to create a space where they were really excited to be with other people that they could have calmer conversations with. And it's actually been awesome. There's been a bunch of collaborations already. Like Rachel's been collaborating with people at the Texas Blockchain Council she met through the platform. You know, we've had like people start working on projects together. I had a text message today actually from somebody, I won't dox her, but she's building out a sort of service that was was kind of going to be like a regular kind of tokenized service. But she texted me today and said, "Oh, I might be interested in building on Nostr now. Do you think you could connect me with any investors that might be interested?" And I was like, literally, I'm elated. So it's just like nice because you're meeting all these people that are working on projects, and then you kind of get to bring them into this ecosystem, and they can learn about Lightning and Nostr and Bitcoin and everything. And yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah. Again, whatever inroads people find, I think is a positive thing. I mean, some people might just like hey, this is the soft-spoken, non-abrasive Bitcoin meetup. That might be right up. The other ones might be like, this is the shouting match Bitcoin meetup. Like everybody's got a different flavor that they're going to lean hard into, and that's fine. I mean, people interact in different ways, and eventually it will just be everyone, right? It won't be like the Bitcoiner meetup. It'll be like we're all Bitcoiners, and there's not a fiat meetup. And when Bitcoin just becomes
there might be, but it'll be like the flat earthers, they'll have like their special.
Yes, it'll definitely be a niche group that is it'll be like Paul Krugman and his posse of economists getting together, rallying for the return of fiat. I think we need the monetary supply to be elastic. I swear. Yeah. I'm curious to get Coach's and Eric's comments in and around this. So whoever wants to jump in.
Well, I want to question those Google numbers about 14%, because I'm on Orange Palap and I think it's more like 7. But
yeah, I mean it varies, but like
there's
roughly about 10%, like on average.
Yeah. But there's a famous comedian in the UK, Louise Amilan. When I was on Daniel Prince's show, I said I would give her the orange pill, and I've tried my best. But in one of her shows, she talks about accessibility and representation for women in politics. She speaks about corruption in politics. So I know she's a pre-corner. She just needs that orange pill. But from that, I take, well, it is accessible to women, but where is the representation? So when I spoke with you, Krista, to get you on the podcast, I was like, I love what you're doing, and I believe people that listen to me, or people that I know that aren't listening to me, should I say, would listen to you because of that representation. So yeah, love what you're doing. I'm going to pass the mantle on to you now and say, if you can orange pill Louisa, because she has a massive reach, and that will bring many more women into Bitcoin. Honestly, trust me, I'm going to send you her show. You're going to watch it and you're going to think she is a free corner. So keep doing what you're doing, keep smashing it, and I'm going to send as many women as I can your way.
Challenge accepted.
Awesome. Eric, do you want to dive in here?
Yeah. So I'll say very generally, I think about it in terms of masculine energy versus feminine energy. And I think that generally speaking, women embody more feminine energy in the world that we live in generally for all of known history. And as a result, I think that women connect and organize around and discuss more of like the fluid energy exchange. There's like a different focus from the feminine energy. And I think the masculine energy is going to be a little bit more focused on the nuts and the bolts and the engineering makeup and the numbers and et cetera. And so I do think that as Bitcoin continues to permeate and grow through our civilization, as we see more of like the deflationary forces paired with the inflationary monetary system, as more people are like liberated from that and people can focus their energy on, creating a good or a service you're not getting siphoned off of. I think as we see this transformative, like the Renaissance age, as so to speak, I think that that's where we're going to see more of the feminine energy having more dialogue around it and more of an interest in what's taking place, because the connectivity between human to human is going to be altered as a result of this fair and open, honest ledger. And so I think that the feminine energy is coming. I think that we're kind of working on maybe more of like the building, the more masculine nuts and bolts, I guess, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
I feel like that's a meme. The feminine energy is coming. I love it. I'm
It
taking
really
it.
is. Yeah, because you know
Yeah.
it's the love that it ushers in. It's like it's not here yet. I think the world is so fundamentally deeply traumatized just from the physicality of property and the game theoretic conundrum for all of known history that you have this like serious scar tissue. And it makes it very difficult for people to hear something that is so profoundly revolutionary and so earth-shattering as Bitcoin as a result to this like this wound that our species is like carrying, this generational deep wound that's being transformed. And as that transformation takes place and more people come in and it's affecting the flow of energy within people, I think that it's going to get more of the feminine attention. Right now it's kind of a dry, boring, there's a bunch of FUD, a bunch of crap on Wall Street, a bunch of mainstream media FUD about how this is just silly, funny internet money. I watched something today. Was it something about basically like Bitcoin lost by winning? It's just a bunch of crap narrative. And so as it becomes more clear and there's more signal and it's like really affecting people and more people are like, hey, I've been liberated from this, like, I don't know, this really depressing slave dynamic that we've all had to contend with. I think it'll get more of the focus from the feminine energies in our world.
Yeah, I mean, Rachel Guy from Le Femme Orange said something similar.
SF
That she
HodlHodl has
said,
got it in the chat.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
I see.
The femergy.
Yeah.
Yeah. We need some of that.
Yeah.
That's when we all get girlfriends, right, guys?
Yeah, Rachel Guy though said it really well from Le Femme Orange. She sort of said, she feels like that the men have kind of built the structure and now the women are kind of going to bring the masses in. They're going to kind of normalize it, if you like, and make it more broadly adopted. And I think she's right in that insight that it definitely feels like, because if you bring the women in, you're bringing the children in, you're bringing like the whole family, you're bringing that whole structure. I think it's happening. It's happening. I'm seeing it. It's definitely happening.
Yeah.
It's like it's like a framed house that still needs to be like painted and furniture needs to be put in, and so feminine energy needs to come figure out with the flow of the place. And so like we're not done building this thing. It's like
that meme of like it's just like a mattress on a floor with like a TV with Sailor on it. That's
totally that's what I'm saying.
And now when the women move in, they'll spruce it up. We need that. But I think there's something, Eric, to what you said in and around. Again, this is generally speaking because there's some incredible people that are building the nuts and bolts that are female, right? Like Gloria Zhao, on Bitcoin Core, Lisa Nifty, that is like a lightning aficionado. And I did her, like she did an amazing, she does the Bitcoin LARP, which is basically like you're acting as like a node in the network and miners and everything, but you're like physically like relaying transactions, holding like strings and like attaching things. And it was like the most informative thing I've ever done. And so like there are, there's exceptions to like the I guess the general, like how would I put it? Like kind of what you said, there is like a general masculine and feminine affinity to lean a certain way. And like guys, a lot of times, are more focused on things like the tools, like again, myself is a perfect.
But we all channel both energies though. Men and women channel both energies. I guess that's kind of why that's why I want to talk about the energy more so than just the gender or sex or whatever. Yeah. And so I think what you're getting at is, Bitcoin has been built out to a degree where it's actually beginning to have real world impact on people. And I like when you look at, typical career choices for like, again, masculine and feminine, there's like jobs focusing on things and jobs focusing on people. Yeah. And you know what, like with my wife, when she came into the Bitcoin space and started getting more involved, the things that called to her the most were the human interest stories, the Human Rights Foundation type of
stories where she's like, oh wow, this impacted a person and brought them out of poverty or helped them escape a tyrannical government and save their family, or like those are the you know, that there's that type of energy, and then there's the cool, I got this app and it does this thing, and like there's very different energies around these things. And I think as Bitcoin has more impact, it attracts a different type of energy and a different type of mindset and kind of fills it out a little bit more. And so again, like I guess regardless of gender, but more the types of people being attracted as Bitcoin begins to reach more people in different ways will vary.
Yeah, it's maturing, I feel.
Yeah, like we're obviously there's a lot of work to be done, but
at 15 years old.
yeah, exactly. But I mean, the fact that it's impacting so many people already is pretty huge, and I can only imagine the next decade, the next 2 decades. Look how many people are drawn to it so passionately this early in the game, and imagine how many more when they recognize, I mean, calling back to Eric's original topic, when they recognize that this changes everything and all the incentives to a more, you know, to a world based on merit rather than who has the biggest stick. I think that's an amazing thing. Yeah. So
Totally agree.
I guess with that, maybe this is an opportune time to begin rounding out. But I like to do something as I do round out an episode, and usually what I ask of the guests are any final thoughts that you want to kind of get off your chest, anything that maybe you didn't get to mention or that you just wanted to reiterate. But secondly, a recommendation. And so this recommendation can take many different forms. It could be, you know, go check out this podcast or this book or this video that I watched or app or device, or maybe even it's just a piece of life advice that would have helped you in your Bitcoin journey and you believe can help somebody else. So I'll give you guys a second to stew as I do mine off the cuff. But again, I guess my general takeaway from this episode is that this tool is again, from Eric's topic, is changing a lot. It's changing the incentive structures, and it is bringing in people that thrive in the new hierarchy of power. And that hierarchy has to do with, are you providing value, right? Are you providing value? Not are you able to put force on somebody else to extract value. So the name of the game has moved from extraction to becoming providers for each other. And I think that's the best type of incentive system that we could have. And with that, I think it's gonna bring in, again, the people that thrive in that environment first, and the people that don't thrive in that environment will eventually have to learn how to get by in that environment. The people that are used to extracting are going to actually have to gain a skill, and they're going to have to change their habits, and they're going to have to learn how to be collaborative and constructive, because that's the only way that things work in the long run in a system that bolsters those who provide value. So that was kind of my takeaway from our conversation. The recommendation that I'll give to people, and this is also came about from a tweet that I saw earlier today. Somebody had never met another Bitcoiner, and they were very hesitant about it, and they were saying like, well, I don't want to be disappointed. I don't know about OPSEC, all those different things. My thoughts in and around this are, I want to be in a world where I have a community. I want to be in a world where I build meaningful relationships with the people around me. And I don't want to sit hobbited away in my home and not have anybody to share my, hopes and dreams with. And so getting into a situation where you get to actually talk to people that have like values and that have found this thing already and kind of understand the implications of where it's going is exhilarating and invigorating, and it lights a fire under your ass to build more and do more. So I can't encourage enough people to go out and meet their local Bitcoiners and build relationships with them. You can still, of course, go by the ethos of don't trust, verify, and you can be cautious. You don't need to go out and announce how much Bitcoin you have, but just by simply saying you're interested in Bitcoin, we shouldn't have to hide under our beds just because we're Bitcoiners. We should build and strengthen each other. And yeah, if you haven't met a Bitcoiner, try it. It's pretty great. Eric, I'll toss it to you. Any final thoughts, recommendations?
Yeah, someone said in the chat, they said, are you concerned about being public? I'm assuming that has to do with the fact that I'm at a cannabis facility. Maybe they didn't catch the intro. I am lawfully producing this crop licensed by the state of California, first off, so I will say that. I might be totally wrong. I don't know. But it was a valid question, and maybe that's what it was for. The thing that comes to mind, I would say the big takeaway is stay humble, stack sats. Like, I think there's a certain dynamic here where you have a vortex of incentives and we all get extremely enthralled, and you have that brain wrenching light bulb moment, and you figure it out and you're enthralled and you're transformed and you want to go and yell it off the rooftops and tell the whole world. I do think, though, that there's a certain element of attempting to orange, and I think everybody who you could say who would consider themselves to be orange pilled has ran into that cognitive dissonance or that fluoride stare or whatever you want to call it when you try to explain to somebody, hey, like, this changes everything, and they just look at you like you're fucking nuts. It's an energy in, energy out world, and one of the Taylor's things, like, focus your energy, laser eyes. And so if you're trying to ram Bitcoin down somebody's throat, I think that could actually be more detrimental than it is good. And so I only really bring Bitcoin up and how transformative it's been for me to people who are actually interested in hearing. I'm not trying to go and just jam something down. I've tried it. It's off-putting. They're like, they don't want to fucking hear it, right? And lastly, I think that, it's the vortex of incentives. Like, I don't think Bitcoin, it's like, we don't need... that's this double-edged sword. We need Bitcoin educators, but Bitcoin is the educator, And so there's this certain element of we're just really fortunate to be a part of it all. And one thing that I was just explaining to somebody the other day, that I think was very easy for us to overlook is the existence of Bitcoin, and the fact that the four of us, for example, and however many people watching the stream or however many humans living on Earth today are stacking sats. The act that we're stacking sats is making life better for people who don't have any Bitcoin and don't understand Bitcoin at all. As an example, I sold my house, I sold my farm, and I'm all in on Bitcoin. All my investable money, everything that I could ever, all the money that I would have in investments is in Bitcoin. So as a result, I'm not competing in the housing market trying to buy a house. So there are local people in my community that are trying to buy their house that don't understand Bitcoin, and the fact that I'm holding Bitcoin is some small infinitesimal downward price pressure on the housing market. So as we free up the economic energy that's held in all these asset classes, and the mass demonetization, which is happening, continues to take place, it's freeing up all these physical resources that we've been hoarding for all of known history to save our economic energy. And we're just squirrels going through life just trying to collect nuts, and you will always try to save more nuts than what you can eat in the winter. And so that creates this dynamic where if you are hoarding these physical things that other people need, like homes, it's this unethical element. So Bitcoin's the only ethical investment. I love how Saylor speaks to that. And no coiners are people who don't understand, people who hate Bitcoin. Their life is getting better right now because we're talking about Bitcoin. We're putting energy into a new and honest system, and we're stacking sats, and that's making everybody's life better. So I think that if we remember that, it'll kind of help calm us down the next time we want to jump down somebody's throat and tell them how fiat ridiculous they are and how big of a deal Bitcoin is. Like, it's helping them even if they don't know it, you know? And if they want to talk about it, like, we'll be here. Bitcoin will be here when they're ready.
Yeah.
And in the meantime, their life's getting better, even if they're unaware of it. You know, you come in, this is the other thing. I hear a lot of people say, though, oh, you're going to miss the boat. I think that's so counterproductive. If so, then, right? So if Bitcoin embodies the properties that it does, right? Unless we're all, and if we don't wake up tomorrow and this was all just some great dream and we're back in our nightmare without Bitcoin, then it goes up at a faster rate than everything else in the marketplace forever. Then you just buy it forever. It doesn't matter whether you buy some sats at $1 million or $10 million a coin. You're putting your economic energy into a thermodynamically sound vessel that appreciates at a faster rate than everything else. You just buy it. It's the simplest thing.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I digress.
I love
Passionate.
I was about to
Sense,
say, Eric,
man.
you need to say, come on.
Yeah, let's fucking go. We're all good, everybody. We're all good. People used to have to smoke weed to relax. Now we got Bitcoin. We're cool. We just we can calm down, right? You could be in a jurisdiction with prohibition. You could just relax, you know, calm down.
I love it.
We're gonna be all right.
Coach, I'm gonna toss it to you. Final thoughts, recommendations. Feel free.
I love how Eric is saying Bitcoin is a saving the world right now as well. But I want to echo what Eric said about being there for people. So it's easy to forget where you started. And 4 years, I'm 4 years into my education of Bitcoin, that just flown by. But around the time when Eric discovered Bitcoin, I had an opportunity. I was at my old life a construction project manager. My site manager was asked to bring in his GPU and was mining Bitcoin in the office. And I asked a question. He didn't really give me an answer. And I was too proud to ask more because he laughed at me. But what I'm trying to say is, wherever you meet people, so I'm getting friends now that are asking me questions, be the person you would have wished to have had when you first discovered Bitcoin or when you had a touch point, because I feel like at that point I shouldn't have been too proud. I should have said to the guy, tell me more. But equally, I believe he should have said, sit down, coach, or I wasn't coach at the time, sit down, Jay, and let's have a conversation. I'm going to tell you about Bitcoin. And he would have blown my mind. Maybe or maybe not. I would have been ready to receive it because of time that I would have had available. But yeah, be the person that you wish you would have had when you had your first touch point.
I love that. I think that's great. I mean, give people a pathway. Yeah, I think more people should do that. That's great. Krista,
oh, that's deep.
Yeah.
I don't know if I can follow these two. I don't have any deep comments to make, really. I'm like, damn, I feel a bit moved here. Yeah, I mean, that's so true. It is difficult. And I think one of the things when you are educating people and / orange pilling them and all the rest of it, is that sometimes it can be quite exhausting. And I've heard a lot of like OGs in the Bitcoin space that say that at some point they just get fed up with trying to explain things and they sort of want to drop out and they don't want to do it. So I think it was you, Ben, that made the point about meeting Bitcoiners in person, or was it you, Coach Carbon? I can't remember. One of you guys said it. And I think that does, you know, what it does is it replenishes you because it re-energizes you. It's almost like the hive mind gets together and it just gets its heat from the hive. So I would definitely encourage people to do that and to, you know, diversify what you're doing. There's a bunch of really, I'm going to give shout outs to all my girlfriends now. So sorry, here we go. Shill. But, you know, there's a bunch of like really cool conferences that go on. You know, Katie the Russian and Jessica Hodler hold one down in Texas, which is around Bitcoin, BitBlock boom around the same time. And that's all about stuff like homesteading and like home birthing and all of that kind of stuff, like practical tips for Bitcoin communities, if you like. Tally from the Orange Hat Pod is doing an amazing retreat in Bitcoin Yucatan. I think it's from the 16th to the 20th of March. And that's basically a chance really for Bitcoiners. We've all discovered, by the way, all the girls do yoga. So of course it's a yoga retreat, but with lots of sightseeing and then just sitting around and chatting about Bitcoin. And also at Bitcoin Yogini, who is Alison Yancey, she does retreats at her cabin in Ohio. So she teaches yoga and she did a session for us on the Access Tribe platform. And who would have thunk this, right? I'm a trained yoga teacher and I've done practiced yoga for years. And it never once occurred to me like the synergies between yogic principles and Bitcoin principles. And oh my God, how aligned are they? It's just insane. And so Alison did this whole practice session where she was taking us through a yoga practice, but talking through all of the associations, like the integrity, the non-violence, like all of that stuff that is kind of yogic principles, but also essentially things that are enforced by Bitcoin, I guess you could say. So yeah, I would just encourage people, if you know the more bro fests are not quite your thing, there's lots of other stuff going on as well, and just connect with those communities, go energize yourself, and go back out and do your good work.
I love that. I mean, I would enjoy a Bitcoin yoga retreat, to be honest. So
You'll have to ask Tally if you're allowed.
yeah. I'll shave the beard. I'm keeping the streak though.
The cult symbol.
yeah, exactly. Well, that's awesome. I want to say a huge thank you to all of you guys for being here. I appreciate you taking time out of your Friday evening to join me and get bullish and chat about all this. I really enjoyed the conversation. And of course, you're all welcome back anytime. So have a great weekend, you guys.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for having us on.
All right, everybody. Thank you for being part of the audience as well. Of course, everybody in the chat, I always love seeing you here. Thank you for commenting and being part of the conversation as well. If you can, please do hit that like button, give this a share on whatever social media you may be on, and of course, hit the subscribe button and help me on my journey. I'm aiming for 100K by the end of the year, and I think it's attainable. So if you can, help me get there if you haven't already subscribed. Of course, if you want to help the show in another way, you can hit up the previously mentioned sponsors down below. That was HodlHodl, CoinKite, Seedor, Nunchuk, Start 9. And then finally, again, if you need any help, if you've been doing some of the free tutorials online, there's a ton of them. So sort through. It's all there for your free education. But if you do need some one-on-one stuff, there's something you need to get around, you can't quite figure it out, you can always go to my website, btcsessions.ca, and book me for private one-on-ones. There is a QR code on the screen that you can also scan there, and it'll take you right there. But with that, I am out. Have yourselves a wonderful day or evening, wherever you may be. See you guys next time for your daily session.
HODL the Bitcoin.